But just think for a moment about the fact that the former head of intelligence in the U.S., one of the former heads of intelligence in the U.S., during the Biden administration said that there was significant evidence that the campus protests, the anti-Israel, pro-Hamas protests on American college campuses, had been funded by foreign entities, including the Revolutionary Islamic government in Tehran, including also, by the way, by Qatar.
And it seems like we're going to find out a lot more of that. There seems to be some connections with USAID and a whole bunch more.
Very much looking forward to those revelations coming in. But just consider the fact that we now know, and we have known for some time what many of us intuited, which is that this is foreign government interference in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That is the sort of thing which everyone's meant to care about, are they not?
So you're not pulling punches with the title of this book because death cults, they don't work in Western societies. And yet here we are.
Well, this new book on democracies and death cults is principally a reflection on the last year and a half of war in the Middle East, but also the last many decades of war. It's partly a first-hand account of my coverage from Israel, Gaza, Lebanon, and so on. But it's also a reflection on not just the history of that, but on something which I noticed after the 7th of October that was really very striking to me, which was that we had basically no anti-Hamas protests in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Israel, the protests were all against Israel. Israel was barbarously attacked on the 7th of October by the death cult of Hamas. And from American college campuses to the streets of the city we're sitting in London, all of the energy immediately from the 7th was against Israel, and indeed in support of the death cult Hamas. And this builds obviously out of stuff I've been thinking about and writing about for a long time, but one of the central questions of the book, which I seek to answer, is how did this happen? How did this happen? How did we end up in the situation that young people in America and large mobs and crowds in the UK are content with boasting that they are on the side of Yahya Sinwar and Ismail Haniyeh and Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah. And how are we in that situation?
Fortunately, most of these people are no longer with us, so that's nice.
All three of the ones I mentioned are now in the dust, and the people who supported them, I think, should take a lesson from that. Yeah.
So what is the answer to that question then? I mean, is it purely because of immigration and bringing in people that you don't vet properly? Is it our own education system? Is it that we've grown fat on our freedoms and we don't know how to defend them anymore? Is it all of those things? Is there something else?
I believe it's all of these things. In the case of immigration, yes, it's true, as I say in the book, that unfortunately, to my great disturbance, this in the last year and a half has fallen along ethnic, religious lines in a way which should be very, very disturbing to people. You can predict with almost 100% accuracy the line that the child of immigrants will take about the Middle East conflict. Someone like the former First Minister of Scotland, who was a Muslim, will fall down on the side of anti-Israelism. It's the first Muslim minister in Australia, much celebrated as a diversity success. You'll notice that it's the Muslim minister in Australia who breaks cabinet responsibility and turns anti-Israel first. Same thing, obviously, in Congress in the US. Same thing with bewildering predictability. So that's certainly one element. And that's the sort of worst bit of the spear of the people who've been celebrating the death cults.
That seems to be the obvious one.
It's the obvious one.
Yeah.
But then underneath that, you have a very significant number of people who've been misled into thinking that the Israel-Palestinian issue is the great issue of the day, and they must throw their lot in with the Palestinians because the Israelis are, settler colonialists, white supremacists, and genocidists, and a set of other flat-out lies. So these people have been effectively miseducated and misinformed into that. Then there are other people who just want to be at what they see as being the forefront movements of their time and much more. And then...
Can we pause for a second? How do you clean up the confusion? Right. I try to do it. I bring on people. I talk about it. I know enough about the history. But how do you clean up the confusion with young people who think some of those patently ridiculous things, that the Jews have nothing to do with this, or that somehow a state of Palestine existed, which it did not? I mean, we can do the whole history lesson. But trying to get people out of that type of brainwashing after they've been to American colleges, it ain't easy.
There's kind of technical answers to that. Obviously, you cut federal funding to any university that's promoted this nonsense, the miseducation of America. And there's much more you can do. It'd be very good if some of these universities closed, actually, because they're factories for trying to create radicals. They're not educational institutions. They can't really try to pretend they are anymore, some of these. So I really hope that there's a real change in the weather with that. But just think for a moment about the fact that the former head of intelligence in the U.S., one of the former heads of intelligence in the U.S., during the Biden administration said that there was significant evidence that the campus protests, the anti-Israel, pro-Hamas protests on American college campuses, had been funded by foreign entities, including the Revolutionary Islamic government in Tehran, including also, by the way, by Qatar.
And it seems like we're going to find out a lot more of that. There seems to be some connections with USAID and a whole bunch more.
Very much looking forward to those revelations coming in. But just consider the fact that we now know, and we have known for some time what many of us intuited, which is that this is foreign government interference in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That is the sort of thing which everyone's meant to care about, are they not? Go a step beyond that. How come when last year the leader of the Revolutionary Islamic government in Iran, the Ayatollah Khamenei, issues a thank you to American college students for coming out and protesting against Israel? This great Khamenei and his friends call the great attack on the so-called colonialist power of Israel. In our day, the biggest colonial power in the Middle East is the Islamic Revolutionary government in Iran.
Right.
They have literally been colonizing the region. They colonized Lebanon. They colonized Iraq. They colonized Syria. They colonized Yemen. And these dolts on American campuses think that if they attack Israel for colonialism, they're on the side of anti-colonialism. First of all, couldn't be less of a colonialist state than Israel. Couldn't be more of a colonialist state than the Revolutionary Islamic government in Iran. So these kids and all of the numpties around them, they're all flat out wrong on every single one of their facts. And as you say, we could shoot them down on it. But clearly it's not just about that.
Right.
Clearly it's about something much deeper that these people are seeking for, which is evident. I give examples in the book of students who said, I learned about the rich history of protests at the university when I came here, and I thought, great, when the protests start up again, whatever they're for, effectively, I want to be right in the center of it. Well, this is like the Japanese warriors in the medieval times. I've spoken to you about before, the Ronin, who after their liege lord is killed, stagger around the countryside looking for another lord to swear allegiance to. These are effectively hollowed out individuals, and I think it's very important that, as well as critiquing them, analyzing them, ridiculing them, and much more, people say, there is another way you can run your life. It doesn't have to be like that. And that's why, one of the things that I try to bring across in the book is that, to my mind, and I've had enormous encouragement in the last year and more, being with the young men and women of the the IDF, the IAF, and the Israeli Defense Forces, who seem to me to be an example to all of their contemporaries in the West, which is that these young men and women know what they're fighting for. They know their values. They know the importance of their mission. They do it without hate, but with love for the protection of their country and their people and their civilization and their families and their faith and much more. And it seems to me that, there's one of those kind of, whither do you go, Western man?
Yeah.
Do you want to go down this route of, crapping in a bucket in the center of a campus in America, hollering the same boring slogans in the belief that you're finding meaning in your life? Or would you actually like to have something to fight for? And the young Israelis I've spent much of the last year with have shown their answer. And I know which side I'm on. And I believe that if other people want to choose the other side, that's fine, but game on.
If you're craving more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics, check out our politics playlist right here. And if you don't want to miss any future videos, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.